Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, brothers and sisters in arms. Norway introduces compulsory military service for women. Also, we meet a determined bunch of female journalists in war-ravaged Central African Republic who are covering the impact of sexual violence on the nation. And the Madagascan slam poet who's teaching teenage girls the power of words. But we begin in Norway, which has become the first ever NATO member to draft both men and women, joining a tiny group of nations around the world, including Israel. They're even bunking in together since the Norwegian military believes unisex dormitories will help reduce sexual harassment among the troops.
They work together. They live together. They fight together. In the name of gender equality, Norway is introducing compulsory military service for women. Jean is one of the new recruits.
Samtidig så har jeg lagt merke til enkelte gutter som kanskje ikke har så mye.
I've noticed that some boys aren't used to living and working with girls. But I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Jeg tror nok det skal gå bra.
Jean is one of 30,000 young women now eligible to join the military ranks. But with a number of new conscripts needed by the army being under 10,000 men and women, this number will be whittled down to include only the best of the best. The measure was voted through Parliament in 2013, but is only now coming into force, making Norway the first NATO country and the first in Europe to have gender-neutral conscription.
I think it's fine. It should be equal for everyone. We're an equal nation, so why shouldn't women have their share of the fun?
Even the dormitories are mixed. Experts believe cohabitation improves camaraderie within a unit and can in fact combat sexual harassment. For commanders, women have a key role to play in overseas operations.
In some situations, for instance in operations, they have an advantage of having females that have access to parts of the population that men don't. For instance, in intelligence gathering, to be able to communicate with the female part of the society in parts of the world that we do operations. We are actually dependent on having female soldiers with us.
Norway has long been a leader when it comes to gender equality. 4 of the last 5 defence ministers have been women. With this latest move, they're aiming to oust gender stereotypes once and for all.
Now it's a landlocked country in the middle of Africa where women's voices are seldom heard. According to the UN, the Central African Republic is one of the world's worst nations when it comes to gender equality. During sectarian clashes in recent years, the rate of sexual violence against women soared, but the victims' stories and gender-sensitive news in general rarely captures the headlines. Still, a small group of women journalists is determined to change that, as our correspondent Katerina Vitozzi reports.
Prudence Yamasey is a Central African journalist. Today she's working on a story about sexual assault. Her interviewee, 38-year-old Lucinda, is a victim of multiple gang rape. The interview will appear on Prudence's blog. Her work takes her across the capital into areas where security is still a problem. She says the authorities also target women journalists.
I was in the 8th district covering the elections. A policeman took away my recorder because he didn't think I was fit to cover the elections. There is always this prejudgment in society that women journalists are not up to the task.
Some journalists believe a lack of support for women reporters means gender-sensitive stories don't make the headlines. In 2015 alone, the UN estimates there were more than 30,000 cases of sexual violence against women in the CAR. Journalist Elise Lugo says it's an undercovered topic.
These are delicate topics that are still taboo, and I think that a woman is usually more open to telling her story to another woman because she thinks a woman can understand her feelings more than a man would. I think that is the reason why these stories are still underreported.
A handful of international NGOs have provided money and training to boost the number of women in the media. But journalists like Gladys Gimari are concerned there are not many young women following in her footsteps.
You can count the number of women journalists on your fingers. We have to find ways to motivate young women to want to do this work, because many people think that if you're a woman in the media, you're not going to see your family or things like that. And that puts people off, because that's just how it is in Africa.
The CAR is still in a delicate post-conflict period. These women want to make sure their voices and those of other women are heard during its recovery.
Now, her words have gone viral. Slam poet Kayla from Madagascar recently created an internet sensation with a protest song about the government, but she's also using the power of words to help others, especially young women in a country where 1 in 3 are mothers by the time they're 18.
Revolt, rage and despair. There's nothing 22-year-old slam poet Kayla doesn't speak about. Whether it's the government, globalisation or domestic violence, this slam poet does not mince her words.
I have a text that's about a woman who was being beaten up at home. The message I want to get across is that just because I'm a woman, and as they say in Madagascar, melemi fanaka, I'm not a soft object that you're going to trample or beat up.
Kayla's first music video is a protest song which, amongst other topics, criticises the Madagascan government. But she's not just about performing. Once a week she visits this organisation to speak with young mothers, encouraging them to use slam poetry to express themselves with abandon.
I wish I had another life, to live without contempt. I wish I lived in a nice house, to not be a victim when the hurricane hits.
Nanjara attends the sessions with Kayla. She became pregnant when she was 16 and now lives alone in this room with her 4-month-old child.
I was living with my boyfriend. When he found out I was pregnant, he left me. Now there's just me and my baby. But what worries me most is to have to find money as I'm still training.
In Madagascar, 1 in 3 teenage girls falls pregnant or has a child by the age of 18.
I was pregnant. I couldn't hide it. Who should be ashamed, you or me? I sweat like oil.
For these women, slam is a way to tackle any topic: religion, money, even sex.
A funny thing about prostitution, for example, is to say, there you go, there's no such thing as a bad job. I'm a prostitute and I own that. You feel the joy of living, or the strength to say, despite what happened to me, I'm still a strong woman.
Slam poetry has brought these women together, helping them learn to express and accept themselves just as they are.
And finally, the Middle East is a part of the world where gender equality often takes a back seat. Yet despite this, women's soccer is becoming rapidly popular in the region. Jordan is to become the first Middle East nation to host the Women's Asian Cup in 2018, and the country is also staging this year's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup, and we went to meet some of the local team.
When Lean began playing football, she was the only girl in her neighborhood to do so. But at 14, this Jordanian teenager is about to fulfill her dream to compete in a World Cup.
Here, in Jordan, girls only began playing football recently. For some people, it's frowned on for a girl to go play in the street. There are no girls in the streets. I was the only one.
Jordan will host the Under-17 Women's World Cup in October. It's the first time the tournament will take place in the Arab world. The Jordanian team is being trained by British coach Robbie Johnson.
Any questions? Obviously, it's not as advanced as in Europe and the Americas and some of the African nations. But this particular group are certainly keen to make a mark and certainly put the Middle East on the map.
The first Jordanian women's football team was formed in 2005. Since then, FIFA has authorized women to wear veils on the field, which means more women in the Arab world can play. For the organizers, increasing the visibility of women playing sports is crucial.
Creating role models that inspire will definitely create some sort of change. There are many barriers that prevent or limit the participation of women in sports, whether social or otherwise, but it's every little step towards creating that change and making a difference.
Today, 720 Jordanian women are licensed football players, and the women's teams have won more titles than their male counterparts.
And that's it for now. And if you'd like to comment on what you've just seen, you can head to our Facebook page. That's France24 _51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far. And please keep those comments coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.